región con mayor crecimiento en los últimos 2 años en la industria de la música. Pero ¿de dónde viene este crecimiento? ¿Y cómo afecta este crecimiento al mundo independiente? Es por esta inquietud que diferentes asociaciones del mundo independiente, como IMI Chile, ABMI de Brasil y ACIAR de Argentina, deciden desarrollar un proyecto para ir en búsqueda de esta información. Gracias al apoyo de WIN, este proyecto se logra concretar en lo que denominamos el Observatorio Latinoamericano de Música Independiente, OLMI por sus siglas en español. Para desarrollar esta tarea, buscamos diferentes organizaciones que tuvieran la suficiente experiencia para poder abordar este proyecto. De esta manera, llegamos al Observatorio Digital de la Música Chilena. ODMC.cl es una plataforma online para analizar la industria de la música chilena. En ella pueden encontrar diferentes secciones como una biblioteca, donde alojamos todas las investigaciones y reportes que desarrollamos para analizar la industria de la música local. Pero además, pueden encontrar diferentes investigaciones de otros autores, tanto públicos como privados. Por otra parte, pueden encontrar un dashboard interactivo para analizar la performance de los músicos chilenos en Spotify. Contamos con una base de datos de más de 3.600 artistas, en donde podemos ver cómo cambian sus seguidores, su popularidad, sus oyentes, como también podemos ver cómo se relacionan los artistas con otros artistas chilenos. El objetivo de esta plataforma es disminuir las brechas de información que existen entre los diferentes agentes de la industria y permitir optimizar la toma de decisiones. Nos inspiramos en esta plataforma para desarrollar una estructura similar que nos permita caracterizar la región latinoamericana completa, especialmente la industria independiente. En una primera etapa, por medio de entrevistas y encuestas, contactaremos al ecosistema independiente de la industria musical de la región con el objetivo de poder caracterizarlo. Una vez obtenida esta información, se desarrollará un informe por cada uno de los países, los cuales serán subidos a nuestra plataforma online de OLMI, donde cada uno de los representantes tendrá acceso a estos resultados para poder identificar cuáles son las similitudes y diferencias entre los países de la región. A su vez, recolectaremos una base de datos de los artistas de cada uno de estos países, con el objetivo de poder ver de qué manera se relacionan estos artistas y cómo performan en plataformas online como Spotify. A finales del 2021, OLMI, el Observatorio Latinoamericano de Música Independiente, contará con una plataforma online donde toda persona que quiera saber más sobre la industria independiente de la región puede obtener información en detalle, como por ejemplo un informe personalizado para cada uno de los países que componen esta región. El objetivo de este conjunto de informes es disminuir las brechas de información para todos los agentes que quieren fomentar el desarrollo de la industria independiente en Latinoamérica. Invito a todos los agentes de la industria de la música a ser partícipes de este proyecto con el objetivo de que logremos desarrollar el ecosistema independiente de la música en Latinoamérica.
你好, and welcome to Introduction to the Independent Recording Industry in Latin America. In this panel, we will discuss how associativity has been key to the development of the Latin American phonographic sector and new projects like the Latin American Observatory of Independent Music. First, we will introduce ourselves. I'm Noemí Planas, General Manager at WIN. We are an international organization that brings together independent music trade associations throughout North and South America, Europe, Asia, and Australasia, representing thousands of companies and professionals worldwide. Our main mission is to connect, support, and develop independent associations globally, focusing on their long-term sustainability.
Hello, I'm Oliver Knust from Chile, a country in the south part of South America. I'm a director of IMI Chile, that's the trade association of the independent music industry, phonographic to be specific. I'm also director of Chilemúsica, that's the export office for the Chilean music. And I'm one of the directors of Fluvial, that's the event, the music conference and festival event that is held in Chile every November, December. Thank you, Noemí, and thank you, IMX, for having us.
Hello, I'm Renato. I am at the board of directors of ABMI in Brazil, a trade association for indie labels, and also do business development for Fuga in the region. I'm very glad to be here It's a pleasure joining IMX, and thank you very much for the LatAm for this invite, and Win also.
Yeah, and here supposed to be Cristóbal Dañobeitía. He's the director of the OLMI, the Observatory of the Latin American Independent Music, o Observatorio Latinoamericano de Música Independiente in our language, and he's arriving in a few minutes, so he will explain us afterwards what's the project about, and he's gonna show his face also.
Okay, so maybe let me start by explaining the main mission of WIN and the role of regional networks. WIN, the Worldwide Independent Network, acts as a global coordination and support body for the independent sector. Our goal is to foster a diverse and vibrant ecosystem where all independent labels have equal access and opportunities. Our main missions are to advance, assist, and educate the network of independent music associations, facilitate communication, knowledge sharing, and cooperation between the members, promote cultural diversity and a level playing field for the independents, champion the value of independent rights and improve industry standards and infrastructure, and finally, develop associations and representation in new markets and regions. And on this last point, one of our main areas of work is promoting regional networks. These are collaborative platforms where independents can effectively exchange knowledge, generate strategies, design solutions, and contribute to the development of the music sector in their own markets and across the region. So we currently have 3 regional networks within WIN. The first one was IMPALA, the European Association. I will explain now about this. Then last year, I think over a year and a half ago, we launched the LatAm network, or Red LatAm, and Oliver will explain then about this. And we also have a new alliance for Asia Pacific, which will include our associations in Japan and South Korea, as well as associations in Australia and New Zealand. So we welcome all the viewers from China and other Asian territories to contact us if they want to have more information about this new network for Asia Pacific. So as I said, I will start explaining the example of IMPALA in Europe as how it's been key to the development of the sector. So IMPALA is a non-profit pan-European organization representing small and medium-sized music companies and also self-releasing artists. It was formed in the year 2000 by independent companies and National Trade Association, combines both. WIN, for example, we only have trade associations as members, not independent individual companies. So IMPALA currently represents over 5,000 members, companies and artists. IMPALA's mission is to grow the independent music sector, return more value to artists and labels, promote diversity and entrepreneurship, improve political access, inspire change, and increase access to finance. I'll explain a little bit how they manage to do that. They provide, firstly, they provide an active single voice for the independent sector and help smaller businesses make themselves visible at a political level. IMPALA fosters the independent sector by maximizing commercial opportunities and promoting mechanisms to remove barriers to licensing online and offline to facilitate that more value is returned to artists and labels. They work with the European Commission, the European Parliament, and other stakeholders in Europe to deliver a proper regulatory framework with improved market access, better finance, and diversity. They also promote investment in culture, reduce tax rates on cultural goods and services, loan guarantee schemes, tax credits, and other measures to increase access to finance for the independents. They also develop and participate in EU projects that boost the music sector. And IMPALA are very active in promoting best practices for collecting societies and advocating for a strong and fair copyright, as well as seeking new antitrust rules specific to culture and taking action against market concentration and other abuses. In summary, IMPALA aims to inspire decision makers to improve conditions for cultural SMEs, achieve inclusion and diversity, promote sustainable and green economic growth for the music sector, and unlock future investment. So this is a summary of what IMPALA is and does. And based on this example, as I said earlier, a year and a half, over a year and more than that now ago, we at WIN, together with the associations in the Latin American region, ACR in Argentina, ABMI in Brazil, and IMI Chile in Chile, launched the Red LatAm, or LatAm network. And Oliver will explain a little bit more about the network and what's been doing in these months since we started.
Well, hi again. We started with the idea of the LatAm network because as we were directors, in Chile were directors, and ABMI representing Brazil on the WIN board, we we're always trying to speak about our agenda and how different it was from the developed markets on the Northern Hemisphere. The agenda was quite different. All the people were looking at Latin America because it was the every year most growing market in the phonographic sector, but still it was very precarious in very other ways. Also, piracy was around, and there were very good arguments to know how or why it was so, the growing was so impressive, and it was, from my perspective, not as the IFPI report was showing. It was because before no one was really paying for music, because piracy was all around, and when the cell phones came, the plans were inside, many of them, or in many countries. So the growth was organic and was obvious, you know. And well, the countries around Chile were developing other TAs. Argentina, as you said, Brazil and Chile were already established, and we had obviously a dialogue in between us. So we thought that we could speak about our own agenda, our own problems, and how we can discuss that in the worldwide discussion. So we started talking, I think, in 2018 for the first time about the idea in the WIN boards. Then we started trying to develop some kind of project on the next year, on 2019. And then we had the first meeting on 2020 in January here in Santiago, where Noemí from WIN was moderating and coordinating it. And we had, I think that 5 countries present: Chile, Peru, Mexico, Colombia, Uruguay, and WIN representing the worldwide association. And we had some kind of work plan done, or for starts, we wanted to know that what was the reality of each country, and maybe that was the starting point of the issue, that we didn't know actually what was happening around, what was the information from each country. We knew more about live business or live music promoters that the phonographic or the record label ecosystems on the independent sector in each country. So we start looking around for information, and that was maybe the first step for the Observatory of the Latin independent music here in the region.
So Renato, maybe you can tell us, Renato, you have also been participating in this LatAm network in the meetings from the beginning. One of the objectives is to build bridges of understanding and cooperation between the different territories. And maybe you could explain about Brazil being a special market within the region with a Portuguese language, which is not the same as the other one that is shared with most of the countries, no, Spanish. Also a special country in many other respects that you can maybe tell us a bit more about this, like what are the particularities of Brazil and how the LatAm network is helping building these bridges between the two.
Sure, thanks. I see Brazil, a few years ago, I've seen research from this huge company saying that Brazil is an island regarding music. Like we don't really consume music outside of Brazil, and we don't really export music. My guess is, of course, all the artists in Brazil want to do this crossover and go to other countries, but we are a huge country, and as soon as they break a hit and they start being this midstream artist, it's not very easy to say, all right, I'm going to start singing in Spanish or even in English, and I can't prejudice my fan base and things like that. I think that's the challenge we have for the music business in Brazil. How do we export it? How do import new things, new songs, and how can we understand all those rights that's related to it? So the importance we see, and I think everyone in the network see, is how we can exchange knowledge and data and understand the particularities of each country, because I think that's a worldwide problem. Like, how do we collect neighboring rights outside our board? And it's always quite difficult because each country has a way to do it. In Brazil, we do it both rights, publishing rights and some recording rights regarding all this public execution in the same entity. So that's quite different. So that's why ISRC are very important in the region. And also we have other 7 associations which sort of manage this entity which collects this money, and you need to be a member of this association to collect this money. So I see it's quite different, but the network, data network, will help us quite a lot because, of course, we don't really consume music and we don't really import music. That's not the truth. I mean, that's the truth for the majors. But when you talk about indie labels and artists, upcoming artists, emerging labels, they always want to collect all the rights that's possible. And of course, we have Spanish music from Chile or from anywhere being played in Brazil. And if it's not a huge money or a huge amount of money for the majors, I guess for indie labels, it can be an opportunity, but that's not an easy task. So that's we are trying and we are doing. That's very the beginning, but we are moving fast and achieving many important things. But that's our network is doing in the region.
Thank you, Renato. Oliver, maybe you can tell us a bit more, because we explained that the LatAm network was launched in January 2020, right before the pandemic hit. So the first few months, we concentrated on dealing with COVID and the measures that governments were adopting in all the different territories. So maybe you could tell us, maybe, Oliver, a bit more about how associativity in the LatAm network and also in your own local countries has helped with this through the pandemic.
Well, I think that the only good thing about the pandemic here in Chile is that the music sector unified itself between their subsectors, with the live music, with the collective societies, with the regional outside Santiago, the capital, other trade associations or musicians associations. So it started like a proto-federation here that is called RAM, Red de Asociaciones Musicales, that hopefully will formalize itself and become a federation in the next year or the end of this year. The RAM has a monthly meeting between all the directors of each trade associations. They are raising numbers. They are trying to speak with government now with concrete data. That's what I wanna maybe pass the mic to Cristóbal, because before the Latin American Observatory, it began with the Chilean Observatory, the Observatorio Digital de Música Chilena, that was also released during the pandemic. It was planned before, and we didn't. It was also very. The only good thing about that was that we could show finally figures to the government about the economic sector, about how it was affecting the already damaged ecosystem for the artists over here. But well, he's the boss, he can speak better about that.
Yes, it was like the digital observatory for Chilean music. You can find it in ODMC.cl. So you can check it out a little bit. So it was a project to analyze information from two kinds of different information: digital information, that was a digital observatory, so trying to analyze the performance of the Chilean musicians on Spotify mainly, and also trying to analyze the economics sector and also work and economic and social and cultural aspects of the economics. And we find it for the first time, maybe something that was a real thing for everyone in the music ecosystem, but we don't have numbers about that. It was a very precarious system, specifically for the artists. So they were winning, for example, less than $200 per month by the music, for the music. So it was like, that is very poor, like the 60% of the musicians won less than $200 for a month. It was too low. But at the same time, we see other things that, for example, the labels and the independent music industry was growing up very fast in the last 10 years, I think. And you can see socially, actually, so many Chilean artists that was very famous right now, but also you can see now in the economic growth. So now, for example, the independent music in Chile, it's around the 10% of all the revenues from the phonographic, and that was, I think it's grow up from zero. So it's like a 1000% of increase, and in a very, very tiny period. So we was talking about, okay, so what we can do with this increase and how we can correlate it with this big precarious ecosystem at the same time. So that was a little bit the...
No, and you start releasing subsector reports.
Yes.
That is also important, because they show music and retail, for example, all the numbers. Then music, live music, then recorded music, and obviously at the end of all the reports, it's going to be a huge summary about the whole ecosystem, and we will show figures around that. And also, well, about associativity, that the observatory itself was the main tool to sit everyone on a table to speak around the pandemic, about the pandemic problem, but now with a tool that was numbers. So it was very useful.
And before maybe we go to explain the Latin American Observatory, because you explained about the Chilean now, the Chilean Observatory. Maybe Renato, you can explain also about the market research that you do in Brazil with your Relatorio ABMI and the analysis of the music market.
Sure, that's ABMI initiative. We don't really have many data about the independent market in Brazil. So last year we started doing this research, try to understand how this market is exactly, where they are concentrate, where the labels get money from. Is it from live events? Are the labels like cultural producers as well? What they do? They produce videos. So that's the way we are trying to understand the market to see how we can help it. And also in this research, we are talking to the DSPs, the digital DSPs in Brazil, and try to understand how they are growing in Brazil. Like we have seen at the last report we did, like Amazon has a huge growth in Brazil. So of course everyone's talk about Spotify and all these kind of things, but we see that for indie labels there are other ways to promote their music, and they can of course get this information and don't really focus just in one player. So we are doing the second one. We are just about to release as well the data, and each year it's getting more data, more information, more people joining this, and we really think this will help our industry quite a lot, because before it we were blind. We were just doing things different, and now we can understand what the labels are doing, and of course the other labels can understand what the sort of competitors are doing as well, and improve it.
So thank you, Renato. We see that we have different levels of market research, because data is very important, as you say, to inform decisions, commercial decisions by companies, but also for associations to be able to show the real value of the sector and measure the size and economic contribution, so they can use this as a tool for representation and advocacy, no? And when negotiating policies or development of support programs. That's why it was very important during COVID, no? Because if you cannot show the size of your sector, it's more difficult to prove that you need help, no? And funding and so on. So when we have different levels of market research, we see that there's the local level, and each association does some market research locally. Then we have the regional one, and we'll go to this now in a minute. And from when we have then the global level, we have a project called Wintel, which maps the global independent recorded music market. And you will see another presentation by my colleague Dennis Sims here at IMX. But now going back to the regional project, this year and thanks to this work by the associations and the LatAm network, the observatory, the Latin American Observatory of Independent Music was launched. And Cristóbal, I think you can tell us more about the project, how it came about, which countries are we working with, and what are the objectives?
Yes. Well, OLMI, actually, as you say, was a project that it was supported initially by the 3 associations here in Latin America, in Chile, ABMI, and LatAm, and was supported also economically from WIN. And now we have new collaborators like the different associations, for example, in Peru, all the collaborations with the Ministry of Culture also in Peru, some different labels in other countries like Paraguay. So it was like a collaboration network to analyze and talk about the region from the independent perspective. So actually Latin America was the fastest growing region in the last, I don't know, 5 or maybe more years. And that was the initial question that we think, okay, so what the independent was, the role of the independent music was on this. So when we talk about independent, maybe it's necessary to clarify a little bit. So when we talk about independent, we are talking about companies, managers, collectives, and self-managed artists who doesn't participate in a multinational label and need information to take better decisions. So that's a little bit our beneficiaries. And our mission is to compile, analyze, and make available information. So we suppose that our hypothesis is that if we have better information, we take better decisions. And if we have better decisions, we have the sustainability in the industry. Because we have this gap, and I think it's a reality for all the countries, this very big gap between like the precarious of the system, that is not so, a lot of money is not raining money from the sky. But at the same time, in the whole industry, if you look from the outside, it's look like it's a very solid or faster growing economy. So to solve this gap, we think that information is like the key answer for that. So in that way, so our mission is aligned with 7 goals of the sustainability development goals. So we make question about gender equality. We try to make together different kind of association to impose this. And our work is based on three, I don't know how to say it, but the 3 like concepts that we think it's especially, it's like digital innovation. So we live now in a digital environment, quality and accessible information. So many times you can find a lot of information, but it's not so regulated in the same way. So it's a very diverse kind of quality of information. And also it's not always accessible. So maybe sometimes you have to pay, and maybe if you are in the precarious part of the system, you're not going to be accessible. So that's very important. But also is the inter-territorial collaboration, as Noemí was saying. Each country has their own resources and capabilities to do their own research, but it's necessary to coordinate this kind of different projects because to make actually better and quality information. So that's a little bit our aim in the big countries like Argentina or Brazil. So we try to imitate in some way the project that we have in Chile, the Chilean Observatory, because we have a structure, a very structure that is very focused on in a website. So OLMI is going to be a website. So all our reports are going to be on this webpage. That is OLMI.LA. And also, if you want to answer, for example, our questionnaires, etc., you can access directly from there. So at the final of the year, we hope to have in December, like all the results of our research that we are launching from May to the final of the year. So we are working with the first semester was the work with the South American region some way. We have to understand that America is a large region, and our countries are actually very large and big. So we have like different cultures. It's a very diverse region. Maybe we talk almost Spanish and also Portuguese, but this doesn't mean that we have a lot of difference in many cultural ways. So we start with the South American region. It's about, so we talk with Brazil, also with the Relatorio of ABMI. So we're talking with Peru, with the Ministry of Culture, with Lancha, also Questionary, Bolivia, Paraguay, Argentina, Uruguay, and Chile. So the second semester now we are working with the Central American region, and we are working with Mexico, Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, and Ecuador. So as we say before, we hope in December, you're going to find in our web page, like a special page for each country. And we have two kinds of information. We are developing some interviews with different labels, trying to analyze like which kind of organization they have, or what is the business model for them, because actually it's very different in different countries. For example, in Peru, the live industry is very strong, and the folkloric music also is very strong. So they have like another routine, or maybe it's not like so Occidental in the sense that they don't have specifically labels, as for example in Chile was developed, or Brazil and Argentina, they're much more like an industry in the main way. But you have difference but Peru is very big, for example, cumbia, or some mixes of different roots music that is very important. Maybe you go to Mexico, it's a very interesting industry and big. And there's the first, of course, in the region, but at the same time, they don't have like an associativity endpoint, for example, that you can find in Chile or other countries. So we are trying to map this difference and trying to show you in a more qualitative way. And then also we have these questionnaires on service that we apply to independent music to analyze which is the income, for example, from the smallest labels, what is the difference in gender equity, and different kinds of things that you're going to find also in our webpage. So that's a little bit, and I don't know, maybe I think that we can share that Latin America, all the people that works on music usually love music. Maybe this is something very international. So in that way, I think that it's a different industry. So we need different kind of instruments to analyze it. It's not like, I don't know, fishing. Maybe fishing is also, I don't know, but it's different in that way. So that's why it's very important to have an observatory, because it's not treated as like any industry. So that's very important. I invite you to visit our webpage. And yes.
Thank you, Cristóbal. Maybe, I don't know, this is a question maybe for the three of you, but we face some challenges, no, when doing market research, and especially in certain territories that maybe are not so used to providing data, no, for or as countries and also sectors. I think the music sector generally is not very used to provide data as they are in other sectors. So that makes it a bit more difficult, no, to do market research in these areas. Maybe either of you three or all can tell us a bit about the challenges of doing market research, and then maybe also the benefits or opportunities.
Well, I'm going to speak about the challenge on the associativity point of view, that comparing with IMPALA, you can talk with a big institution that unifies the whole territory, that is the European Parliament. We don't have nothing like that over here. There's two attempts of associativity continental entity, that is the Mercosur, that attends the Atlantic side, and the Alianza del Pacífico, that attends the Pacific side, Peru, Chile, Colombia, etc. But there's no dialogue in between regarding the cultural aspects or the creative economy aspects. In the European side is huge. The dialogue is a lot of support for financing projects and to do projects collaborating with other countries. That's a big gap that we have to face, and hopefully we can find a way to maybe talk with the UNESCO or another entities that could support regional projects like this. About data, maybe Cristóbal or Renato can tell us about, but I always find very useful that, or I'm very impressed when IMPALA are facing a problem, they just know where to go and face it, with whom to discuss it. We don't have that person or structure, lamentablemente.
I think that in some way that some difficulties are because Latin America is a very informal industry. So to have access to real information, as for example taxes and things like that. So I think that is the biggest gap, and also I think is one of the key clues to resolve this gap, or make it more formal. I think that one of the missions is because one of the difficulties is because the states or the governments in different countries doesn't analyze the cultural economy like as something important or representative of the economic growth in general, and also the sustainability, I don't know, aims for the society. So we think that this is changing actually in the last years. We have a very important theoretical aspects in the creative economy that actually comes from Colombia, and actually Chile is taking account in a very good way. That's the thing that why we can get some funds from the government here in Chile to make this observatory, because it was like placement as a aim of the economic growth to go to creative industry. And why creative industry? Principally because they are sustainable, and the base is creativity and not minerals, for example. And at the same time, because it's a very good access to young people also. So I think that in the way that we go more formally to the creative industry, we're going to have access to better information and actually take better decisions. For example, I don't know, make incentives for the musicians if they pay taxes or things like that. And the other difficulty, I think, is that the industry, I think, in the Latin American region was grow up very organic in some way. It was not actually from a leadership very, very strong. Actually, male labels go out from, for example, from Chile in the 90s. And there's not like so it's very organic, it's very diverse. So, for example, you can see it in Mexico, that there is a long industry. I don't have like one entity to analyze the information. Actually, nobody, I think, in the Latin American region have it. But for example, if you go to the UK, you have like an organization. Actually, we talked with them very many times, and they have like a project of more than 10 years to analyze the industry information. So there is also a matter of time that you have to accumulate knowledge. And then the results are going to, the impact of the results of the information is not like 1 year. You need like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years of comparison to make real better decisions. And we now live in a very like fast growing and era, very digital, very of the present. So it's difficult to take account like in the long terms to know that information's results in the economy or the impact is a long-term thing. So I think that that's the thing they view.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like we are very informal here, and everything just is happening. Like as you see, Latin America, perhaps it's pretty much like Brazil. It's a agricultural country, so we don't really think like our cultural property as a good thing, like a thing that we can make a profit. Like otherwise, the richest countries always think themselves like that, and they create this thing like exporting technology and all this kind of things. And of course, it's always related to copyright, and music comes with it. So they are very rigid with this. And in Latin America, we are not. So if our region don't think that's very important, that's not a thing that we learn in school. So we just learn doing it, going to conferences when we get old. And a part of our lives, I would say, like artists, when they are beginning their career, they don't really understand the importance of publishing their music, or getting a ISRC of their sound recording. So, or even like credit the musicians which participate in those sound recordings. So I would say, like, at the beginning, everything, it's sort of a mess. We don't have all the data that are important. So without all this data, that's we cannot collect money, we cannot have proper research. But I think that's a good point regarding our sector in the pandemic, because I've seen many people want to join webinars and trying to understand how to make money from the sound recording, but without gigging, like trying to understand the associations, how it works, and how does the music industry make money. So we achieve a very good thing. I think it will change. I've seen many people in Brazil talking about what is the difference between ISRC and the other one, that EWS, the publishing. Sorry, uh, and also wants to understand the importance of all of these things. Like, and data, it's very important. Like, uh, it's the goal is over there. Like, if you credit a song as an electronic song and it's not, like, it can screw up everything. Like, we will not understand if this song is really performing at the genre it should be. And I say, like, in Brazil, many labels here think our music, it should be credited as a world music, but in the digital, right? But if we're talking about DSPs, like Apple Music, Amazon, all of them see our music as Latin music. And that's quite tricky, because Latin music will be always trending in Brazil. So that's not Latin music. Like, we have our particularities, and sometimes it's not possible to credit it in many DSPs. So if you're gonna try to export this data, you only see like Latin music coming from one DSP. So you don't really understand where cumbia is, where sertanejo is, and all this kind of thing. So that's the point. Like, I think the region here, and as we see, and you guys told, like, we Latin America, it's the most important, not the most important, the richest place, but we are growing quite a lot. And my guess is the world must pay attention about it, because we need to understand our data. And not only us need to understand our data, the world need to understand it if they want to get a better situation or from the region.
I think you're absolutely right. No? The music industry worldwide has been dominated for a long time by the Anglo repertoire from the United States or the UK. And in recent years, we've seen a boom of Latin music, of Asian artists making a big impact worldwide. So there's definitely opportunities, I think, for all these regions, and with associations and projects like the Observatory and all your local reports, gathering more data and market research to help understand the market, the markets and the market regionally and worldwide. It will be easier to be in a future that is more diverse in all these musical genres and different ways of maybe doing business. We don't have much more time, I think, so maybe a few conclusions from each of you to recap.
From my side is that finally we will have a web page or a report that will show about the independent phonographic sector to the world on a fast way and very simple way to understand it, and to try to facilitate on doing business on the region, and well, to participate in every instance that the growing markets of our region are showing now.
Yes, for my part, also to invite all of you to try to analyze and get more information about the Latin American industry in the music sector. Also trying to find like more difference between each country. So that I think that's very important from an outside perspective. So trying to imagine that we are a very diverse country, even that we speak Spanish, all of us, or maybe almost all of us. And also I'm trying to see in a different way. For example, we have countries like Uruguay that is a very small country, but they have a very big increase in economic and different kind of realities that you can go to land in some kind of country that are more easily to get up. For example, Uruguay or Chile, and then go to other countries that are more difficult. So we're trying to invite you to analyze the region by country, because this is going to make you a clue to if you want to come here and land in our lands.
Okay, so thank you, Oliver, gracias, Cristóbal, obrigada, Renato, and thank you to the China International Music Expo for inviting us, and see you next time. Xie xie.
Chao, gracias, Noemí.
Thank you.
Xie xie.
Ciao.
Chao, Renato.
Ciao.